Hey there, welcome to another episode of Becoming More Me. I'm really excited to share this episode with you today because I am going to share all the details from my latest getaway, as well as recap and reflect on this past amazing month since my book launched in the beginning of November, and even share some details with you about a very exclusive program that I am putting together to launch in the new year. So I can't wait to share the details about this trip with you. I think that no matter where you're planning on going in the future, the ideas and revelations about my own getaway can enhance yours and make it even more pleasurable and enjoyable for you and whoever you're getting away with. Enjoy. I'm so glad you're here for this episode of Becoming More Me. As of yesterday, we celebrated 1 month since my book launched, Becoming More Me, Tapping into Success, Subconscious Secrets of an ADHD Entrepreneurial Mom. And I'm so glad that I released any expectations about the outcome of that because I have been just wowed and blown away for the last month with the response to it and all of the messages, the reviews, the outreach, the sharing in stories. There's been so much, and all of the new people that have come into my world through the book that I wouldn't have known otherwise or had the chance to, meet and understand their stories better through them reading mine. So incredibly, incredibly grateful. Of course, we launched the paperback shortly after the Kindle version, the digital version on 11/11, and that was amazing also. And then we launched the Audible book, which I read and narrated in the studio on the 15th. So some of them have only been out for, a few weeks now, and the Kindle has been out for a full month. And yeah, it's cool to be, have wrapped up the recording studio for the Audible and all of the nitty-gritty stuff that goes into creating a digital and paperback version of a book, the editing and the formatting and the artwork and all of that kind of in multiple rounds as it went for me, and just have this finished version and it's like, there it is. And now be able to allow it to tell the story, and so much is transpiring because of that. So it's the end of one part of it, which was very much like being in a vacuum, writing a book and creating all of that without anybody kind of like reflecting things back to me or anything else. And now getting to hear what it means to people and have it all reflected back and be out of that vacuum. I'm really enjoying this. So yeah, it's all still very much unfolding, all still very brand new. And the ripple effect that I know this book is going to create is just beginning. It's just kind of coming out from that center point. And I know there's an infinite amount of space that it can cover as time progresses. So to all of you who have purchased a copy of any of the formats, and those of you who have purchased every single format, thank you so much for your support, for your belief in me and this product, and for reading it. And especially for, leaving reviews and sending me messages and everything else. When you do create something like this, as I said, kind of in a vacuum, you never really know what it's going to mean to somebody. And I know, I had somebody start reading it the other day and they sent me a message and it made my day. It said, just reading the first pages of the intro, my immediate reaction was, OMG, this woman has captured my inner world and laid it out on paper. Talk about a sign. And then a bunch of exclamation marks and a bunch of hearts. And it's that kind of stuff that makes me go, the 6 months that I poured my heart and soul into producing that meant something. And sometimes I don't think that people think about that. They think an author is, so self-assured and confident in their mission. And yes, I am. And I do believe in this mission. And I did have real purpose in every point during the creation of it. And also, you just never know. So hearing that confirmation from people means so much to me. So today, I just wanted to talk about this month because, I intentionally scheduled in time to celebrate. We had my husband and I celebrated our 15th wedding anniversary October 26th, which was roughly a little less than 2 weeks before my book launched. So you can imagine that that time was still pretty hectic for me. I was still in the recording studio. I was still wrapping up a lot of last minute stuff before my book was actually published. I was editing the proof copies, all sorts of other things were going on. So we didn't really get to celebrate on our anniversary quite the way that we might have liked. We did still, we still enjoyed. I think I talked about on another episode how we stayed in, and we have a very spacious master bathroom suite, and we actually brought in food and we ate dinner in the bathroom, which was like, it sounds so weird, but we actually have like a huge amount of space in there. So we like brought a table and chairs up there. We had a bubble bath. We brought in like amazing food from Whole Foods and just, cracked open a bottle of wine and sat and reminisced about the last year, the last 15 years, all the things. And it was beautiful. And then we wanted to go away. So we knew that going away would be better planned after the book launch and when we could truly focus on each other and not be distracted by anything else. And there was kind of this nice little lull around Thanksgiving that was perfect for it. And that's when we planned for things. And we planned, I forget when we planned, but we planned a couple of months in advance. And obviously with all the kids, we need to figure out, are they going to miss school? Who can watch them? Thankfully, my mom and my stepdad, were willing to do it. And we ended up going away for a nice chunk of the week right leading up to Thanksgiving. So it was great. The kids didn't have to miss any school. We were able to take them, to my parents' house, get them settled, have some nice time with family before we went. And then we came back the Wednesday evening right before Thanksgiving in time to celebrate with all of my family, and everybody was already there. So it really was perfect. And I know that my mom, who was always concerned about traffic, like perpetually, was worried about us traveling on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. But it might have added an hour to our drive. It wasn't bad, and it was totally worth it to get away then. So I'll tell you a little bit about our trip because I love sharing this kind of stuff, because the place that we went to, I didn't even know it existed until this past spring. I believe I discovered it when I was searching for places for our family to go on vacation. And as you know, if you listen to the shows over the summer, we ended up in Cape Cod instead. But I discovered this amazing, it's an all-inclusive resort in, I guess they call it upper state New York, but it's really like mid New York, called Mohonk Mountain House. And the reason I'm surprised I've never heard of it is because they have tons of awards for, best hotel restaurants and, they're one of I think the top 10 spas in the world rated, and lots of other accolades and awards. And they've also been there since 1869. So it's an insanely beautiful property. And the actual resort hotel house part of it, it'll blow you away just looking at it. It's kind of built into a cliff right on the lake, and they have thousands of acres right there that you can hike on, beautifully maintained hiking trails, and they have they call them summer houses. Some people might call them gazebos, but they're summer houses. They're made from timber, and they're all along the cliff sides. So basically everywhere where there would be an amazing view, there's this little summer house kind of built in, many of them kind of hanging off of cliff edges, that you can have a seat and take in the view. And just it's a view of practically like eternity when you're up there. It's crazy. Our favorite part when we were there was that we woke up, you know me, we wake up early anyway. So we wanted to catch sunrise, and I'd kind of looked at the weather, and there's those different apps where you can check the sunrise and what the quality is going to be and all that kind of stuff. And we realized that the Tuesday morning that we were going to be there was going to be quite lovely for catching sunrise. And so we got up early, made sure that we were out the door a good half hour, 40 minutes before actual sunrise, because what we wanted to do was hike up the mountain to what they call the skytop tower, which is this amazing, like 1,500-foot tower that is on top of the highest part of the mountain that you can hike to. And I have lots of beautiful pictures of it, and I'm sure I'll be sharing some of them in my social media feed. So if you want to see more, feel free to check that out. And if you just look up Skytop Tower, Mohonk Mountain House. But it's not a very long hike, actually. It was only about 0.7 miles from, the door of the hotel up the mountain. But, it's a good climb. And there's actually some really adventuresome ways that you can climb up there. They have some like all vertical climbs, like in between crevices of the rocks that you can do. We did not do that. My hubby's knee was not in great shape on our trip. And honestly, I was just happier to take the trails and see the sights and not worry about a vertical climb. But a lot of people really enjoyed that. And I mean, there was climbing for all levels of climbing expertise or even being a novice. So we took the easy path on up, and then we climbed to the top of the tower and got up there, right before the sun came up, and it was just breathtaking. And, we've been taking sunrise walks for a very long time. Whenever we're at the beach, which is where my kids were staying while we went on this trip, we know that if we want to get a good sunrise walk in, you really need to be out there and up there a good 20 minutes at least before actual sunrise, because that's when you get all that gorgeous, gorgeous color before the sun actually comes up and over the horizon. So we had, several, probably 5 or 10 minutes of that before the sun came up from the top of this tower. And from the top of the tower, hey, it's Teresa. Real quick, I want to make sure that you know that enrollment for my VIP book readers edition of the Becoming More Me signature program that will be kicking off in the new year is underway now. This is something I have never done before and will never be doing again like this in the future. Very intimate, hand-picked group of women that I will be working with for this 4-month exclusive. If this sounds like something that might be up your alley because you would love the transformation that comes with one-on-one work, where we're really going to get into your personal challenges and setbacks through hypnotherapy, emotional freedom techniques, and a bunch of other things, as well as group coaching that is going to allow for greater reflection, elevated consciousness, and increased awareness, and a bunch of other really awesome book-themed extras that are part of this one-time only book readers edition of my program, what you need to do is get on my calendar for a quick insight call. I can give you all the details, answer all of your questions, and the worst case scenario is you're going to walk away with greater insights about what you want to work on in your own personal work, whether you join the program or not. Just go to gamechangingconversation.com and hop on my calendar. It's just gamechangingconversation.com. Don't type in the www or you'll get an error message, and I'll answer all your questions and we'll chat. You don't just see New York from up there. You can see New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Vermont, Connecticut, and Massachusetts. And it was a beautiful, clear morning, and we could see all of them. And it's neat because the way they have the tower is that every corner is a different, direction, northeast, southwest. So it's very easy to kind of figure out what you're looking at or what direction you're looking at from up there. Obviously, with the sunrise, you can tell the sun is coming up in the east also, and that aligned with the east corner of the tower. So it was really cool. And for me, it was a great opportunity to practice EFT tapping and nervous system regulation because my fear of heights was very activated up there, and very activated a lot of times going up the cliffside as we stopped in the different summer houses and took in the views and saw these big drops off the edges of the cliffs and everything else. I really felt activated. So I was like, you know what? I'm up here on the top of this, and I'm going to reinstall some feelings of safety and regulate my nervous system from this very high point. And it was so transformative and impactful to do it up there. It was amazing because when I first got to the top of the steps, I was like kind of really cautious about like walking to the side and looking over. And after I did a round of EFT tapping, I was just kind of hanging my head over the side, looking, no big deal, wasn't bothering me. I felt very grounded, very safe, very secure, and so much better about the heights. Not eliminated, but it was not the irrational fear that I had beforehand, you know? And that is such the thing that I love about EFT. And it was such a parallel to what I feel like EFT feels like. Because when you regulate your nervous system and when you do tapping, it feels like you're rising up in like a hot air balloon. So in this case, it was like I was rising up to the highest point in the area I was visiting, and that you can have this unbounded view of the horizon where there is so much possibility in every direction. And I literally had that. And then from there, you can see beyond any limited views or perspectives that might otherwise hold you back. And it just allows you to feel safer, to dream bigger, to be clearer, and to have this confident courage that you don't have before you do it. So I loved doing tapping up there because it's like that's already the way that EFT makes me feel. And then to be able to feel that and also release the fear of heights that I was having just minutes earlier was just such emotional freedom, which is what it's all about, right? So anyway, that sunrise hike was amazing. And I think the most amazing thing about it was that we were literally the only two people climbing the mountain that morning. The only two people in the Skytop Tower. And it wasn't until a good 15 or 20 minutes after sunrise that we saw anybody else. And then it was like a maintenance crew person that was, doing some things to get the trails ready. And once we got to the bottom of the mountain, we encountered a couple other hikers. But I could not believe that, the resort was mostly booked. It was a great time to go because most of their rooms became full right before Thanksgiving, which was the day we were leaving. So they were only about 75% capacity when we were there. There's still a lot of people staying there. And I'm like, it always boggles my mind that people don't take advantage of the early morning hours. I just don't understand it. And also, I don't need to go promoting it because one of my favorite things about the early morning hours is that the masses don't take advantage of them. So opportunities like we had that Tuesday morning are available to early birds like us that don't mind getting up in the 4 o'clock hour and hitting it. So there's such treasure to be had in those early morning hours. Even if you don't get out and do something, I find so much inner peace in being up that early to work out in my home gym or to get some thought work done. It's just really, really valuable time. And it's usually when my brain is really firing in great ways too. I can process so much during that time. I can be so creative during that time. All sorts of ideas flow to me in the early morning hours. And I love to leverage that to be more and do less. And that's what it's all about, right? So that was one of our favorite things about that trip. And let me tell you about some of the other things that we really enjoyed. And also some things that might help you plan if you want to go do something like this. And you could probably leverage this for other locations that you might visit also. So I knew that once we got to the Mohonk Mountain House, we were probably not going to leave the property until we checked out. And I also love checking out local towns and places that I have never been to. So what we did is we drove up on Sunday morning. We left bright and early before our kids woke up so that we didn't have to worry about any of that. We said our goodbyes the night before, got up early, hit the road, and just enjoyed the drive, which was nice. We got to experience sunrise on our drive the first morning, and it was no traffic the whole way up. It was beautiful. And then we got into the town that's adjacent to where the Mohonk Mountain House is, called New Paltz, before lunchtime. It was awesome. So we had the whole day to explore. And we just booked a local Hampton Inn the first night. So we didn't have to worry about like making the most of being at this amazing, resort or anything else. We spent that day just going out and about. We started at this awesome crystal store. It was a crystal and handmade jewelry called Dancing Hands. And it was funny because once we got to the Mohonk Mountain House and I was at spa services the following day, my my massage therapist was like, yeah, we all like to say about New Paltz that they haven't quite realized the 60s is over yet. Have you ever seen so much tie-dye or anything else? And I was like, you're absolutely right. I definitely had like a 60s vibe, but I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So we started at this crystal store and I was immediately attracted to this phantom quartz that was sitting atop a rotating case that had earrings on it. And I was like, wow, it just pulled me right in. If you're watching the video, I'll show you. I just went and grabbed it. But yeah, this point, and I don't know how well the camera can capture it, had these really neat variations in the back of it that I liked. See, oh yeah, you can see it now. It was just such a complex, beautiful piece. And there was just something about its energy that I was like, oh, I want to have this. So that was the first purchase that I made after we had lunch. And I also got, oh, it's upstairs. Oh, no, it's right here. I brought it down. I got this beautiful piece of ocean jasper that I just really loved the color in. And I don't have the other part here, but I found they had a heart made out of this that was very similar in color. It might have even been made from the same piece. And I got that for Jordan because, he's my little love heart and he loves crystals. So he was very appreciative that we have this like mother-son piece of ocean jasper that seems to be cut from the same larger piece. And the sweetest thing was that he has these blue stones, actually blue angelite. And I believe he got these from my mom, his Oma, and he has 2 of them. And I gave him his little heart of ocean jasper, and he turned right around and said, you know what? I love this blue stone, Mommy, and I want you to have one. So it's kind of like the old best friends necklaces, where one person gets one half and one gets another. He had 2 of these. He gave me one, and then I gave him the matching piece of the ocean jasper. It was very sweet. And yeah, so we started off, we had lunch at this really cute place in New Paltz called Main Course, and that was delicious. I had like quiche and a salad and some fresh juice and a really amazing coffee that just tasted so good. And that was how we started things off, which I always feel like nothing can be better than starting off a vacation with food that's really good, like unexpectedly good, and great service and a fun atmosphere. And that just kicked things off for us. And then we went shopping. I, got a bunch of, crystals and things at the Dancing Hands jewelry store. And then we just kind of made our way up and down the main street in New Paltz. There's a place there called Frank's that we stopped at because they make their own pickles. And I didn't even know there was all these pickle awards available, but they have won them all. So I was like, gotta get some pickles. I love pickled food. And they had jardinera and a bunch of other pickled things. So we were like, okay, we're going to be here for a few days. Let's grab a jar of a couple of things and we can try them out at the hotel. And if they're good, we'll come back and get more. Well, needless to say, they were amazing. And before we headed out of town on Wednesday, we stopped by and stocked up on Frank's pickles and jardinera and, their olives. They were my favorite. They had olives, like the Kalamata and the green olives, pitted, that were mixed with citrus, like orange and lemons and garlic and parsley, and they were so good. We got a little tub of them the first day and they were gone. And then we got a larger tub of them the second time we went back, and they might have lasted 2 or 3 days. But I was, taking it easy on them at that point. So delicious, delicious olives at Frank's. And then for the ride home, we picked up their Italian combo sandwich, which was also amazing. So great place to grab a sandwich and some pickles and some olives if you're ever in New Paltz. And what else did we do? They had such cool stores there. They had stores that had like houseplants for sale and like witchy vibes to them. And they had a lot of like art type stores and galleries. And then they had another store. I got to think of what the name was of it. It was called the Awareness Shop, and they had quite literally the largest collection of like tarot and oracle cards that I have ever seen anywhere, and samples of them out of the packs too that you could actually look at, which I thought was a nice touch. So yeah, just so many cool stores, and we had fun shopping for the kids and getting them little souvenirs and things. And we shopped the day away, and then we went back and just enjoyed relaxing in our room. Again, like we knew that Sunday was going to be our day to shop and to chill. And, after the long drive, that was necessary. But if you ever check out the Mohonk Mountain House website, they have so many activities and so many, things to do throughout the day when you're there that we knew we needed to rest up. And we also went on Sunday and hiked a trail that was at the bottom, like more in the valley. It was along the river and the railway, and that was really cool too. And from there, we got our first sighting of the Skytop Tower that we would climb to the top of just a couple days later. So it was kind of neat. As we got there, we're like really far away from it and we would see it. And then we got a little bit closer as we arrived at the mountain house and would see it from different vantage points on their trails. And then we hiked up to it. So it was like we just kept getting closer and closer and closer. And it was really cool when we were finally at the top of it, because it felt like we had been trying to get there for a little while at that point. So yeah, we enjoyed just relaxing and just being with each other on Sunday afternoon. And then we went to a local Italian/pizza place for dinner that evening. And we were in bed pretty early. I don't think we made it past 10 o'clock any night. We are just not night owls. And that's okay, because again, we like waking up early, and you can't really rock both ends of the clock and also be well rested and take care of your nervous system and yourself. So we were in bed early, and here's the part that I think we really aced and got to make the most of our time at the mountain house. So I scheduled spa appointments for us first thing on Monday morning. I think the spa opens at 8, but they start their appointments around 9. So I think we had 9:15 appointments, and we were both getting massages, and I really wanted to go to the spa. I know my husband could kind of, he doesn't really care, but it's a very highly rated spa there. And they also have this amazing, like, mineral pool outside that's kept at about 100, 101 degrees, that they bring in Dead Sea salts from Israel. And it's like a very nourishing, great for the body place to give yourself a soak. And in the cold weather, it was amazing. That was worth the price of admission just on its own. But what we ended up doing was we arrived at the spa when they opened at 8, and we got to enjoy soaking, which really prepared our muscles for our massages, got to enjoy some, tea. They had this amazing coconut water that I found after we left because I forgot to get it while I was there. And I was so glad, because I'll be bringing the spa to my house with this coconut water. And we just got to enjoy and relax. They have a beautiful solarium where you can relax with, your spouse or partner if they're of the opposite sex. And that was nice, because then there's, other areas that are just for the women or just for the men. So we were able to chill together, have our services, and we were able to use the spa all day. So from 8 to 7, even if you don't stay there and you just go to the spa, you have access to the grounds and the locker room, the saunas, the steam room, all that stuff for the entire day, which was perfect because technically check-in isn't until 4 p.m. and we were checking in on Monday. So we were really able to get a lot out of the day because we were already there. And then we had them move our lunch, because it's also an all-inclusive resort. So you get breakfast, lunch, dinner, tea and cookies in the afternoon, all these, it's just amazing. So we had them move our lunch for checkout day to Monday. And we, went to the spa, we enjoyed the steam room, we put our hiking clothes on. We went for a hike. We hiked Eagles Cliff, and then we got to go have our lunch. And I believe even before lunch, our room was already ready for early check-in. So that was beautiful. They were so accommodating. It was an amazing place to stay from a customer service standpoint. They just really want to make people happy. And we were able to check in early and we were already there. We had already enjoyed the place for the whole morning. And then we had the locker all day in the spa. So until we got our luggage and the valets and everybody brought it in, we had a home base. So it was a very smart way to get a full day out of a day that otherwise people might not show up for until 4 p.m. when the normal check-in time is. And like I stated before, I knew once we checked in, we weren't going to leave. And we didn't, And it's such a cool resort. I mean, when you turn onto the road that it's on, you still have miles to go before you actually end up in the mountain house. And all along the way, and it's a winding road, very, you have to be careful. There's not necessarily guardrails, and there's some drops that you could experience if you weren't being careful. There's signs all along the way that say slowly and quietly. It just really transitions you into the vibe of leaving your reality on the outside and stepping into this new paradigm, this new reality for however long you're there. And that was really the shift that I felt like I needed. And I think that Jeff really enjoyed too. It was like just entering a whole other world, in some ways like stepping back in time. It was really cool. On Wednesday, our last morning there, we went and did what they call the barn museum tour. They have this enormous barn on the back side because it's kind of built on the cliff. It's like 5 stories. On the front side, it doesn't look quite as large, but really enormous barn that is just full of all of these antiquities and things that date back to when they originally began building this back in the middle of 1800s. So, they're celebrating 154 years this year, which is just amazing. And there's so much there that is original and very little other than the spa, the ice skating rink, things like that have been added on in this century. So just a lot of history. And I don't really consider myself a history buff, but I do enjoy seeing like old things, like seeing the things they used to use to like make their ice cream, or they had this horse treadmill there that they used to get the horses to walk on it so that it would thresh the wheat and things that then they would then use to like make mattresses and all sorts of other things. So it was just neat to see all of that and to also see the footprint of what has become quite this enormous mountain house, and the parts that were built first and second and third, and the way that it kind of kept getting bigger and bigger, and what happened at what time, and how it worked out with like the railways opening and people being able to get there. They had all of these carriages, horse-drawn carriages, one-horse open sleighs, all sorts of things they used to use to get people up the mountain to the mountain house to stay. And it was just really neat to see how things have changed and how some things haven't over time. And that was a really cool tour. People told us about that in advance. They're like, oh, make sure you get to the barn museum tour. It's really awesome. The man that leads it, Jim Clark, has been there since the 70s. So he got to see a lot of things kind of get phased out and new things get phased in. But he also learned from the people that were there, firsthand when it originally opened, because they were, in their upper years when he came on. So there's like no gaps in the information getting passed on from one to the next. And he was a wealth of information. So I really liked seeing the steamer trunks and things that they had there too from the 1800s. They had some Louis Vuitton ones, and that was just really kind of cool to see, because that's not how you think about Louis Vuitton these days, as like a old steamer trunk, but there it was. So that was a really fun way to learn about the history on Wednesday morning. They also had lots of classes and meditations. We went to singing bowl meditations. We learned Tuina, self-massage, acupressure points and things That was really cool. We did a stretching class. We did yoga. What else did we do? We went to the tea and cookies every day. They had like hot apple cider and tea and coffee and homemade cookies every day at 4. That was fun. That same Tuesday that we hiked up and saw the sunrise, by the afternoon, the temperature had dropped a ton and it snowed. And that was so magical too, because we live in Maryland and we pretty much got no snow last winter, which was a total disappointment. I mean, when you have 4 kids and when you also love snow yourself, having a no snow winter is kind of a bummer. And it didn't snow much, it just coated the ground, but it was so pretty to see the snow falling around the lake and on all the cliffs. And it was just really beautiful. And they had a koi pond that was pretty much right outside of the window of our room. And all of the rooms have these like wraparound kind of like porches on them and rocking chairs. I think they said there's 600 or 600 and some rocking chairs at the whole place. They're like everywhere, and just places to just sit and chill. But the koi pond, at first we were thinking, gosh, are they even real? And we had to take a picture to see if they moved the next time. We're like, they are real. Huge koi in there, beautiful. And there was a fountain there with the koi pond that was all geodes. And I think it was citrine, but just beautiful geodes that made up this kind of heaped rock fountain. Absolutely gorgeous. So there was just so much that we enjoyed while we were there. The classes, the spa, they have an indoor pool that plays music underwater. Kind of neat. And it was fun to dream about going back with the kids, during the summertime, which is probably when they are the most booked, because then you can actually enjoy the lake and, take out boats, canoes, kayaks, that kind of thing on the lake. You can swim. There's horseback riding. They have, carriage rides and things. They had actually just finished their horseback riding and carriage season the day before we arrived, but that's really cool. They have zip lines. They have all sorts of kids activities and things during the summer also. So I think it would be really fun to go back as a family, and the kids would also like really enjoy the food. So there's a lot more restaurants that are open during the summer than this time of year. So this time it was pretty much just the main dining room. That was fine. We were only there for a few days and it didn't get boring. They have, I mentioned before, it's an all-inclusive resort. So you just, make your reservations and you go at the time that suits you. And breakfast and lunch are buffet style, but they also have things like, eggs Benedict stations and omelet stations and other things that are prepared for you on the spot, carving stations and things like that. And lunch, they had like poke bowls, and they had, what else did they have? They had a carving station for lunch. They had, I love the oatmeal bar at breakfast time. There was no shortage of food and desserts and options and amazing salads and healthy choices. And I loved that they had so much food that was like sourced from the area. Local butter and cream and syrup and lots of things that were from the local area and were just absolutely delicious. And then dinner was, sit down and amazing also. My husband said that I was mimicking my son who loves steak. I ate a lot of steak on vacation. I think I had tenderloin one night and a New York strip the other night, but they were both absolutely delicious. And I guess I was feeling the need for a little added iron in my diet. So it did the trick. But yeah, we loved it. And we felt very well rested leaving. And we got out, by lunchtime a little bit before lunchtime on Wednesday, and we were back with our family by dinner time and able to enjoy the Thanksgiving holiday and everything else. But it was so good to get away and just take the time. I talk about it in my book and I talk about it in general, that a lot of times as, a woman with high functioning anxiety and big goals and ambitions, it's always really easy to just, okay, what's next? What's next? I did that. Okay, cool. Check. Let's move on. And really being conscious of taking the time to reflect, not just on, finishing up this book, but the greater thing, reflecting on, 15 years of marriage with my amazing husband and the life that we've created and our children and everything else, is something that does require time and effort and is so worth it. We had so much to reflect on, so much to be grateful for, so much to appreciate. And it was the perfect way to do it. And I'm so glad that we got a way to do it. And just taking that break. And also being conscious of, both of us feeling that calling of like, oh, should I, my husband kept feeling like, I should check in with work, or I should, take a few hours and do this. And he actually didn't. He was really amazing at kind of staying away from the work as much as possible. He does have a job that kind of requires a certain amount of daily checking in, but we really were conscious of taking that time and enjoying each other. And I utilized some time in the car to get a little bit of work done and catch up on some things that needed to be done. But I also just I didn't really post anything other than stories that week. I just took the time to just be where I was and to be present and to practice what I preach, because that's the only way I can really show other people that it's possible. And that's so important. I said it the day my book launched, when I was just in utter disbelief that it was an international bestseller before lunchtime. And as I found out that the book had become an international bestseller, I was on the way to my own hypnotherapy appointment. And the first category out of several that my book got number one in on launch day was hypnotherapy. And it struck me so deeply at that moment. And there's a reel on my social media that I thought, the bleep filter was on, but it wasn't. So if you choose to listen to it, maybe not while the kids are around, because there's some F-bombs flying in it. But it struck me so deeply because as I got the news, as I'm driving to this appointment, I'm realizing that I just, became an international bestseller in hypnotherapy as I'm on my way to partake in my own hypnotherapy. As I'm walking my walk, walking my talk, and doing all of the things that I am consistently talking with you all about the value in, and it's it's making me feel teary right now because it just really was like, I felt really proud of myself. I felt like, wow, I felt the integrity, I felt the authenticity, and I felt deserving of what was happening because I knew the way that it was all created was through my own being of the kind of person that I help, other people to become, through the being, not necessarily the doing and the living and the transformation. I don't even know how to say it. I'm muddling my words right now, but it was a very deep, striking moment for me, and a moment that I will hold with pride for the rest of my life. So thank you all for being a part of it. Thank you for listening to my ramblings about my latest vacation. And if you should have any questions about, this vacation in particular, feel free to message me. I'm happy to answer them, happy to share anything that might make your vacation more meaningful. And I know how helpful it is to have these kind of questions answered in advance, to be able to anticipate. That's my favorite part of vacation planning, by the way, guys. I am not excited if I only get to plan a vacation like a week or a couple of weeks in advance of when it happens. It's just not enough time for the buildup and the savoring of what's about to happen. I love anticipation. So, if you're thinking about it, maybe plan something for your upcoming summer or for a few months from now or whatever, so that you can savor and enjoy the sweet anticipation of getting away and all that it is going to do for you and bring to your life, the way that it's going to enrich you. It doesn't matter where you're planning on going, but the anticipation of relaxation, of enjoyment, of connection, of release, of just being in pleasure and being in the present is such a beautiful thing to anticipate. So as you plan your next getaway, I hope you will fully savor the anticipation of it. I thank you for listening today, and I'll see you in the next episode. spending some of your precious time with me today. If you loved this episode, please leave a review or simply share it with someone else who would get great benefit from it too. If you share on social media, please tag me so I can personally connect and thank you. Until next time, keep taking bold and brave steps towards becoming more of who you want to be in this world. You are capable, you are worthy, and you are enough. And if your inner critic is still trying to argue with those facts, hit me up. We've got work to do.